We are going to start with the maps to give people a sense of what we're talking about. We're going to start in Rafah with the resistance report today, but you can see the map of all of Gaza here. Rafah in the far south, and then just east of Gaza City is 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐄𝐜, where we will be covering later on in the report. And there's still resistance along the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 corridor there that you can see in red. So the 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐄𝐜 battle space is new, but we've been following the Rafah invasion, as Ahmed said, goes back to the beginning of May, and we've been following it closely. So let's look at a map here of a zoom in where we can see the main battle spaces. So right along the border is the Philadelphia corridor. We're going to see that appear in the show again today. Tel Sultan is in the western edge of Rafah. You can see the Rafah crossing that Ahmed described that is closed here in this zoom. And also the Israeli military invaded Khan Yunis again yesterday. They gave evacuation notices to large areas of Khan Yunis, an already destroyed city where many people were taking shelter. So that's what you're seeing there on that map. And we will start in Tel Sultan with this first video is a remarkable video. 9 months in, there's still the resistance is still giving us these kind of remarkable videos. We see 𝐓𝐡𝐞 fighters here with eyes on Israeli military vehicles. We see a Merkava tank here flashing its lights into a building. So 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is in the building across the street, and we're going to watch them literally here hand dig a tunnel underneath the road outside of a house that they're positioned in. And you could see this happening over the course of a couple of days by hand. So these tunnels, this gives you a clue of what's happening as the war is going on. The tunnels are able to be built like this. This is an attack tunnel built from scratch, and literally we're watching it be built from scratch by hand by these fighters preparing a roadside bomb, an IED that's planted underneath the road to detonate underneath the Merkava tank. And this footage is just remarkable. And what we're seeing here is these are Israeli and American anti-tank mines that are used for, these are M15 mines that are usually used for against tanks. But of course, the Israelis, as we know, have been using them to blow up people's houses in a more cost-effective way than artillery shelling and F-16, F-15 bombings. And here we see a fighter who says, essentially he's saying to us, it was something that we're going to see as a theme of this show, that these are their goods being returned to sender. And we can see the commander there, again, on a closed line, able to talk between positions. And that's something that the fighters have been doing all war. So targeting that vehicle, they've got a camera right there for the target, and now we can see the blast hole from those anti-tank mines. The anti-tank mines are designed to destroy the tracks. They're called track breakers. But when 𝐓𝐡𝐞 stacks them into a pile like that with 9 or 10 of them piled up, it's significantly more than a track breaker. And in the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 field report, they said that these M15 mines were captured, not left behind. The Israelis sometimes leave them behind. Sometimes they flee their positions and leave them behind. Sometimes they don't use them all because of the resistance curtailing the area of operations for the Israeli military. So there's a number of reasons why 𝐓𝐡𝐞 fighters get these mines into their hands. They capture them, they're left behind, the Israelis flee and leave them and don't want to bring them back into Israel with them because it's dangerous to travel with them. If their vehicles are hit while they're traveling with these mines, it blows up their vehicle, as it does the houses that they're in, which we saw earlier in the war in Maghazi camp when 𝐓𝐡𝐞 fired a Yasin at a house that had these mines all in them that were being prepared to blow up a neighborhood. So you can see the way the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 fighters have stacked these mines, and then using the same system that they use to pull the dirt out of the ground, they use to place this mine outside the house. So the tunnel, that attack tunnel, goes from inside that house out into the street And then the Israeli vehicle runs over. So you can see him there talking in a tunnel on a closed line. So that's something that we've seen all throughout the war and is of a major strategic advantage for 𝐓𝐶𝐞, is that they have this closed line network that the Israelis have tried to get into multiple times throughout the last, say, the last decade, and have been unable to do that. So significant operation there in Tel Sultan. Number 2 here. Then 𝐓𝐶𝐞 followed that up by giving us this. This is a mixtape they put together of all their ambushes, or many or some of their ambushes throughout the war. And just for the audience, I counted the ambushes and located them all. There's 9 ambushes that you're going to see. Many people remember these ambushes from previous points in the war. They're in Tel Sultan. This is the one in Khan Yunis that we saw, the Night of Power ambush that killed 8 soldiers in a multi-staged ambush. That's Beit Hanun that we saw earlier in the war. That's also Beit Hanun, the ambush a couple months ago where they killed 2 soldiers with 1 Al Ghul bullet. There's the Nabulsi roundabout there, and those fighters are in 𝐓𝐿. We see Jabalia camp, and also, you see the 𝐓𝐿 operation there from December with the burning tank. So those operations, 9 ambushes that they're showing here, including captured gear. There's dog tags, and there's their Namr being towed from last week. And that's Abu Ubaidah saying, you will only find ambushes anywhere that you go in Gaza. You could check my Twitter feed for the uncensored version of that and ambush mixtape, which has excellent music, and also has many soldier drops that we edit out of these videos to keep these videos PG. So let's look at number 3 here, because this is a sniper operation, an Al Ghul sniper operation, and this is remarkable. This is on the eastern edge of Rafah, and this soldier is talking on the phone to his mother, which is just remarkable lack of discipline, total failure of leadership and command. That his commander is sitting in this house watching this guy go out on a balcony and talk to his mother on the phone. And she was quoted in Army radio saying that the call ended and she heard everything else that happened after he was sniped. The Israelis released his name, obviously, and 𝐓𝐶𝐞 also released his name. But just remarkable lack of discipline. I mean, Shir talked a little bit about the rot in the leadership of the military. That's what you're seeing here. To send somebody on a rooftop in a battle space to phone their mother on an unsecured cell phone line is just so many levels of a mistake. We're seeing it here from 2 cameras. In any case, it cost this one soldier his life, and you could see it's a pretty far shot. The distance from that camera angle is pretty clear shot. So sniper operation in eastern Rafah. Let's do number 4 here, because this is also remarkable. This was released on the weekend, on Sunday, and this is 𝐓𝐶𝐞 saying that these are them guerrilla action devices. These are the hand-delivered IEDs that we've seen them use throughout the war, that they run up and put under the tank barrel, under the tank turret, or on the back door. And you could see in the background, they're showing videos of last week's EI resistance report. Those videos were shown last week from the Al-Shabura ambush. And here we're seeing something like 6 or 7 dozen of these. And 𝐓𝐶𝐞 saying that our preparation is continuous. Let's show this one a couple times tomorrow, because it's just so remarkable. So you see the TV in the background. They're using the TV to date the video, which is something that you might have seen, in a hostage video where they hold up the newspaper to show, to prove what date it is. This is 𝐓𝐶𝐞 running footage from Al Jazeera in the background to show the date of the of that this is recent, that this is happening right now, that they're making these rounds right now. And This is, of course, 1 week after the chief of staff of the IDF said that 𝐤𝐿 was no longer functioning as a military framework, which is just absurd because we're actually watching them function as a military framework all over the place. And we're even watching them constructing these weapons. And what we're seeing here is interesting because these are Type 75 People's Liberation Army recoilless gun shells. And it's possible that they're just using the shell as a casing and they're refilling them with Israeli explosives, the unexploded ordnance that are a higher grade explosive. And so we're seeing the warheads being repurposed in this situation, which is something that's interesting. These rounds are brought in from Libya during the collapse of the Gaddafi government. Whole stores of these weapons were brought in, which is also possibly where we saw the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜, the anti-tank guided missile system that we saw for the first time last week being used. It's possible that came from Libya too. I said Syria last week, but Libya is a possibility as well. Let's show one more time, Tamara. There's because you notice all these little details in this video. First of all, there's spray paint on the wall that basically says in much more beautiful Arabic and meaningful Arabic than the English translation, but essentially says, if you think you're dismantling us, you're looking at a mirage. The closer you get to saying you're dismantling us, every corner you turn, it's just a mirage. The idea that you're defeating 𝐤𝐿 is just demonstrated in this video as absurd. They're demonstrated in all these videos that it's absurd. But this, to be manufacturing during the war, this is the first clue that 𝐤𝐿 has given us that they're manufacturing throughout the war. So this is remarkable to see, and it's going to be even more remarkable to see in this next video, number 5, Tamara. We're going to watch that one of those be used. The guy on the right here is holding what we just saw in that video from 2 days before. The guy on the left is holding the original guerrilla action device, which has a magnet and a fuse on the bottom. But the second fighter on the right-hand side, he's carrying that round that you just saw them make on Sunday, showing they released the video on Sunday, showing that it was happening within the last week. But if you look at the guy on the right, he's holding that Type 75 canister. The guy on the right has it, and the guy on the left, on the bottom of the screen, he's holding the original version. It's not clear what's going on with this tank because it looks as though 𝐤𝐿 has monitored this situation, and maybe the soldiers are not inside this tank. They come at it from the side, which would allow them protection. The tank gun can't turn fast enough. Even the mounted machine gun can't turn fast enough to catch them running. But their choice of route out is interesting. One behind and one in the front, maybe suggesting that the tank is abandoned. If the tank is not abandoned, you're looking at multiple casualties here because you can clearly see that it blasts with double. Each one of those has 60 centimeters can penetrate 60 centimeters of homogeneous armor. And underneath the turret is a weak spot. And in the previous video, you could see the label that 𝐤𝐿 was putting on the manufactured guerrilla action device that was saying where to target the vehicle. The back door and the turret gap are the two most important spots. And you see these fighters run up and put it right into the turret gap. And that's what causes that explosion. And inside the turret are the crew of the tank, not the infantry. The infantry is in the middle of the tank, but in the turret is the commander, the driver, the loader. So we haven't seen any casualty report from the Israelis that would match what we're seeing here, which again doesn't really tell us anything because they've been lying throughout the war about their casualties. They often release them days later when they do release them. But this is just an unbelievable operation to carry it out, to hand deliver the weapon like that, and to obviously clearly effective. And for the fighters to get away and to return to their base safely with the skills that they've learned in this battle. And this is something that's happening throughout the war. All these fighters are returning they're returning to their base safely. These are not martyrdom missions, and the fighters return to their base as better fighters and pass on their knowledge to the rest of the units, and improve throughout the war, and will improve for the next war. And that's what we're clearly seeing here. This is just a remarkable operation. You can see, just show it one more time tomorrow, just because it's incredible. If you look in the back there, you can see the sea. So what we're looking at is we're looking at southwest Rafa. We're looking at the Philadelphia corridor, the frontier area around the Philadelphia corridor, which is the area that the Israelis are going to try to hold going forward for their plan to hold the Netzarim corridor and hold the Philadelphia corridor and use them to raid throughout the middle parts of the Gaza Strip, and to cut off the border and the arms smuggling that they believe they can cut off by digging up the tunnels. But as we know, they have only gotten to the first level of tunnels. There you can see the sea in that. Again, I don't know how many times we can run this, because it's just it's just unbelievable footage. The courage is unbelievable, obviously, but the acumen, they put it exactly where it's supposed to be put, not 2 feet off where it's supposed to be put, and then they get out of the way in separate spots. The fighters are going to pre-planned positions to escape safely. So just remarkable resistance continuing in Rafah now 2 full months into this operation. So that is the south. That is the resistance report from Rafah. And as I said, the Israelis invaded Khan Yunis. Just to cover that really quickly, Islamic Jihad fired 20 rockets at Israel from a territory that Israel said that they had cleared. And in revenge, Israel dropped leaflets, forced the population to leave, massacred people, and then are in the process of carrying out strikes in Khan Yunis in the south. So just wanted to bring note, we haven't had any videos from that yet, but 20 rockets is more rockets than have been fired at any one time in months. And the Israelis continually say that they have stopped rocket fire from Khan Yunis, which we know is not true, because we saw rocket fire chase the Israelis out after that Night of Power ambush during Ramadan that they just showed in the mixtape. Immediately after the Israelis pulled out, they pulled out hours after they were hit by that ambush, and minutes later they were hit by rocket barrages from Khan Yunis. So it doesn't work. These check boxes that the Israelis want to show that they're achieving at least some portion of their military objectives in Gaza is just, they can't even show that. So that is the resistance in Rafah. There was more than 27 separate operations in Rafah in the last week since you last saw me. So they're able to carry on this pace now 2 months into the war. And the Israelis appear to be setting up positions along the Philadelphia corridor. Maybe I'll bring you next week some satellite footage that seems to show that they have troop concentrations right down on the water, right along the Philadelphia corridor, which are going to be targets, just like the Netzarim corridor is a target. Those positions will be a target going forward. The longer the military stays in a fixed position, the more likely the guerrilla fighters are going to operate to hit that fixed position. That is just a truism of guerrilla warfare or warfare of any kind. And as we see, these fighters are not operating as guerrillas right now. They're operating as a national army still. We're seeing the commanders issuing the orders. We saw a video today that we'll do on the show next week where they did an after action report. So they are actually telling the commander what happened in the operation, which is something that we haven't seen before. We've seen the commanders giving the operation, but all forms of the command and control are still functioning in the south, in Rafah.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.